it going, buddy?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm so excited about what you're talking about right now, about memberships, about just what's going on in the world. And I thought, who better than my buddy Stu to come in and to talk to my tribe about how to create this residual relationship with your clients that makes them feel served and loved and needed and heard in a time where that's a little topsy-turvy. So Stu, welcome to the Epic Success Podcast again.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. And I'm excited to dive in because I've never been more passionate about this topic than I am right now, given everything that's happened in this last year. So I just want to get this information in front of as many entrepreneurs and business owners as possible to really open our awareness to what's possible as it relates to memberships and specifically recurring revenue. And more importantly, what that stability can do in your business and what it makes possible for all of us. So I'm passionate about this. I'll dive and go in any direction you want to take me.
Okay. So one of the things I've noticed, I think what's really important is to pay attention as somebody who's building a business in what's going on around you. And what mistake I see a lot of people making is they create an offer and then they offer it again and again the exact same way and think somehow that's always going to land. This last year has been nothing short of entrepreneurial PTSD. It's like we survive, we kind of get into a rhythm and then something else and then something else and then something else. And I've noticed a shift in people's security, safety, almost wanting things to happen so fast and right now because they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I know you and I both have a passion for memberships. We and our nonprofit have had a membership going for 16 years.
Wow.
16 years. Yes, I started it when I was 10. I know, prodigy, whatever, but no, I'm just kidding. But so I know the power of that relationship and that connection and how it moves with what's going on. And I would love for you to share a little bit about what you've seen in the world of memberships over the last year, specifically, because I think it's important to talk about.
What's happened in this last year is it's created more urgency for people to figure stuff out. Whereas before, things were okay. Like it was just like, we could do launches, we could do promotions, and we were totally fine with, those one-time sales coming in. Yeah. But then like COVID happened and it threw a curveball to all of us as entrepreneurs and myself included. Like you mentioned your nonprofit. My wife and I, as you know, we have our own nonprofit. Yep. And ours, the 95% of our fundraising came from live events. Yeah. So with COVID, there was no more live events happening, which meant all that fundraising just came to a screeching halt. So we had to think quickly about how are we going to make a pivot? So we did. We launched a membership and it's been the primary source of fundraising for us during the last year. And thank goodness we had that in place. But I think what I've been able to see and witness firsthand is just so many businesses whereby memberships were not on the radar whatsoever. Yeah. And then last year happened and people were like, I don't ever want to experience that feeling of being vulnerable to whatever could potentially come our way. I want stability in the business. I want to know with certainty that the bills are going to be paid, staff can be paid, I'm going to be paid, that our family's going to be okay. And, some of the most heartwarming messages I received this past year, like an example would be one from Casey Hope. Casey, she owns a brick and mortar art studio. Kids and adults, they come into her art studio and in there, she's teaching different aspects of art. Well, she sent me a message in March of last year when everything was going down. And she just said, Stu, I'm just so grateful that I have my digital membership. She has a calligraphy membership. And because we've had to close the art studio. And so there's no more revenue coming in. And they still have like rent, and they still got, staff and team. But she said, I don't have the fear that I would have had if I didn't have the membership that is still generating revenue. Now, to Casey's, credit, she also saw a huge opportunity in the midst of this, because when millions of parents with young kids All of a sudden we're thrust into becoming homeschooling parents. You know, she's like, oh my gosh, like I can help out all those stressed out parents because normally the kids are coming into the art studio. She's like, and I know how to do a membership, so I'll just combine the two. So she launched an art membership for kids. And, you know, this was her second membership. So she had the calligraphy one that in this past year has experienced its most growth ever. It's more than 1,000+ members. Then she launches this kids art membership. She's got more than 500+ members in that second membership, all because she knew how to create a membership and she's created that stability in her business. And so I just think I contrast that and all the success that so many of our community experience every single day to, you know, a good buddy of mine who's in my wedding party. He owns a restaurant and his world was completely flipped upside down. He's open and all of a sudden, boom, he's closed. And how long is he going to be closed for? And, you know, does he lay off staff? What does he do? Like, does he, you know, is the getting food and all that into the restaurant still like at the volume? How does he gauge all that stuff? And then they're open and he's like, okay, good. Things are back to normal. And then boom, they're closed again. And it's just chaos and craziness and just so much stress and instability. And that's why, like, I'm passionate about memberships, because on that side of the coin, we have seen people having their best year ever, which feels weird in a year where so many are experiencing chaos. It feels weird to be experiencing your best year ever, but so many in our community are, because they've got that stability, and it's grown like crazy this past year because more people are now open to the idea of learning online and experiencing things online because they were forced into it. But it's created a whole new group of people who are interested in joining memberships.
Yeah. You know, some of the coolest, and I don't know if you know this about my history, but I owned and ran restaurants. We say it was another lifetime ago, but I did. I have a big passion for that industry. And so many of my friends, because when I got out of it, I did consulting, and that's what got me in the business consulting world before the whole brain science of success thing happened. So it was crazy. All the calls I was getting, how do I do this online thing, Shannon? What do we do? How? And the number one thing I said, stop, stay in your zone of genius, think reoccurring revenue. Yes. What can you offer your people? What membership can you get them to relieve something that they have, which is, oh my gosh, I'm now a parent with business, with school. I don't want to cook. All I want to do is stick my head in the sand.
Totally.
And one of my old colleagues that I used to consult for started a membership from his restaurant saying, look, I'm going to cook for you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
That's amazing.
At your door, boom, boom, boom. And they weathered the storm, unfortunately, like so many that didn't, which just breaks my heart.
Well, there was a story that was out of here in Toronto that I read it, and I just felt it, you know, and it was this restaurant that had been in this family for 4 or 5 generations. And they ultimately ended up declaring bankruptcy because they couldn't survive, you know, the closures. And that's why I'm passionate about this, because like, as entrepreneurs, we pour so much into our business as it is. Like nobody who's not an entrepreneur will ever understand like that we're just nonstop thinking about who we serve and how we can help and getting what we have into front of more. It's just constantly on our mind. But then you layer in the stress of like all the uncertainty, and it's just craziness. And that's why I'm passionate, because I know the difference that having recurring revenue can make in your mental state and in your confidence and in the stress levels that you're experiencing at home and in life. And so this is why, you know, as entrepreneurs, we work hard enough as it is. I just want to make it a little bit easier for everybody by introducing recurring revenue, no matter what type of business you have, whether it's a product-based business, whether it's a service-based business, a knowledge-based business, or community-based business. There are models for everyone. And that's my goal, is just to help open people's eyes and awareness to what's possible for them in their business to create that stability.
You know, and I know you've got a workshop coming up, and we're going to talk about that. I would love for you to talk to that business owner, though, that maybe they started and had a course, had some knowledge industry kind of thing, or maybe even a service or a software as a service, but they're looking at like, I want that consistency. I want that reoccurring revenue. Yes. But you just hit it. It's that thing where they love their clients so much. They really want to serve them deeply. I've heard a lot of my students, my clients talking about, as memberships, is this a right move for me right now? So I'd like for you to talk about how not many people want your course, but a membership produces something different. And I would love for you to talk to that person and just talk about the differences, really.
Well, a lot of times people will have the thought that it's either a course or it's a membership. And it's not an either or scenario. They go together. They're like peanut butter and chocolate. Like they are one and the same. Like if somebody is going through a course, in a course, let's just think about this for a minute. In a course, people are learning what to do and how to do it, right? So during the course, whether it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it might be, it's just like a deep dive and they're learning a lot of information in a short period of time. That's why we love courses, because we can go from not knowing anything, to learning a whole lot about it and going deep in a very short period of time. However, once the course ends, this is typically when people start to implement what they've learned. And this is typically when the course experience completely ends. So now, and if anyone's run a course, I guarantee you've experienced this where you come to the end and people are like, well, wait a minute. Wait, what's going to happen to the community? Like, what if I got questions? Like, who am I going to go to? And people start freaking out and panicking because now the reality sets in, which is like, okay, now you've got the information, off you go. And people are like, no, like I need the support and help. So going from like knowing what to do and how to do it to actually getting the results, that's what a membership helps bridge that gap. It supports them in the journey of implementing what it is that they've learned. And that right there, what we're talking about is a back-end membership. So if you've got a course or you've got coaching clients or one-on-one consulting clients that you are helping, then you are going deep with people. But there's a bridge that we've got to build between like them knowing what to do and how to do it to them getting the results with what it is you teach. So for example, like I can watch all the videos in the world about how to play the guitar, but just by watching those videos, I'm not going to become the next Eric Clapton. Like at some point I got to practice, right? Or like I can watch all the videos about swimming online, but at some point I got to get in the pool and put what I've learned into practice. And so just because we've watched it and learned it doesn't mean we've mastered it. That's what a back-end membership is all about, supporting people in the journey of mastering what it is that we've taught. Now, here's the benefit for you and I, those of us who are teaching, is that when we are with people on that journey, we get to support them in getting the results because we are helping them navigate the challenges that might come up when it comes to implementing. And as a result of that, more people are going to implement and get results than you can ever imagine. So there will always be a percentage of people that are the overachievers. And in a course, they're going to be putting what they're learning into practice. But the vast majority of people, they need time. And that time is where you're going to be with them, supporting them in that journey. So that's a back-end membership. So it's applicable for all of those who are teaching courses, who have coaching clients, who have consulting clients. In fact, that's how I got into it. You know, my old business back in 2008, I had a consulting business and it was fantastic. I was earning great money, but there was an upper limit because, I was, my days were full. I was burning the candle at both ends as it was. And the only way to grow that business was to add more clients. But I just didn't have any more time to give, So I had to find ways to create leverage where I could help more people in less time. And that's exactly what a membership allows us to do. And I'll give you one other quick example of this. So in this past year, Ginger Dean is a great example. She's a psychotherapist and she helps women who are coming out of really toxic relationships. Wow. And so she had a full client load. She was, meeting with clients, 14 to 16 hours a day because there was so much demand. And in fact, when COVID happened, demand actually increased because there was more friction at home in many relationships. And so she launched a membership. And in this past year, she's welcomed more than 1,000+ members into her membership. And the key thing here is that now she's helping a lot more people. She's created a way more impact in all of these lives, and she's doing it in far less time. So she herself has a social life, And she's also making a heck of a lot more money in her business. So it's a win-win-win all the way across the board. This is why I'm passionate about this. It gives us the ability to help more people, help them experience more progress than ever before, and at the same time, be able to help ourselves in creating that stability through memberships.
Now, I'm a triber. So like, if I'm going to learn something, and this is what I hope my listeners do, if you're going to learn something, you learn it from the person who eats, breathes, sleeps it, and can't stop obsessing over it. And that's Stu, right? So when I was trying to figure it out, joined Tribe and learned something that's pivotal. It's really pivotal in our business. It's something I teach my coaches in our coaching certification. And especially true right now. You don't want to just get people in. You want to get them to the finish line. Like, and when you're talking about coaching, I always talk, we've got a lot of coaches that follow us because of the certification. And, people raising their hands to say, I'm not where I want to be and I need help. Or they're saying, I have this problem and I can't figure it out. Those two things are so vulnerable, right? It takes a lot to get, especially for like high achieving kind of people, to get to the point where they're like, I need help. And a coach focused on the finish line is a different relationship than the coach that is focused on just by one-off coaching or by a program. So we really implemented this heavily within our programs, and back-end memberships became the thing that we love because yes, I can give them all the brain-based tools all day long. And there's a step-by-step, and it's really, somewhat systematic, but at the end of the day, our blind spots are our blind spots, right? Our questions are our questions, our issues are our issues. And it's having that friend or that person that's just a little bit ahead of us, walking us down the path saying, come on, little buddy, you're going to make it. And we found such a joy, when you're serving people in a relationship that is continuing, and a relationship that isn't like start finish. And even though we do kind of have a start and a finish, like a 90-day kind of container, that's when we get to keep going. Like, we're still in the car together. Let's keep going. And I know you have a workshop coming up, but I'd love for you to talk to that person that I'm teasing people with that. They're like, give me the workshop. But there's a lot of people who just got started online in the last year that thought it was impossible and hard before they were forced into being at home. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. If I can run somebody else's business online, then maybe I should jump into this pool. So let's talk about why, if you're going to get started, how memberships is just such a perfect path to start on.
Well, I think the reason is because it doesn't take a lot to get going. Like, a membership can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be. And I'll give you a bunch of different examples here.
Perfect.
A lot of times people will get their knickers in a twist, overthinking it and overanalyzing and thinking, I got to have an audience of this size, or I'm not very technical. I don't know what platform to pick. Or like, why would anybody listen to me? Like, who am I? Like, for whatever reason, they'll get into their heads. And just one little point of friction will prevent people from moving forward. And PS, by the way, this is a really important note for all coaches listening, is that like, it doesn't matter how many strategies and tactics that we teach people, if there is a point of friction that is holding people up, it will continue to hold them up, no matter how well you teach or how many things you share, which is, by the way, why loading people up with a whole lot more information in a membership is the absolute worst thing that you can do, because it just creates overwhelm, right? And so the whole goal for you and I is to help people make progress, as you outlined. And sometimes that's the big wins, and those are going to happen. But also sometimes it's the little wins. Like in my world, that means somebody doing their very first Facebook Live. I celebrate that just as much as somebody coming off a launch welcoming thousands of members. Why? Because it's the path to progress. It's like, I know if they do their first Facebook Live, that's going to create momentum. And that first Facebook Live will lead them to doing a founding member launch. And that founding member launch will lead them to doing another launch and another one and another one. And before we know it, they've grown from 17 members to 2,100 members 3 years later, which is Jennifer Chamberlain. She did a founding member launch and welcomed 17 members. And her membership, by the way, is she's teaching women who are 50 and above art. And so it's a very, super focused market. But she started with 17 founding members, 17. And then fast forward, she just finished her last launch. She now has more than 2,100 members. Her membership's on track for a 7-figure a year membership.
Wow.
And so I'm sharing this with you because we often think like we see others with, thousands of members are like, oh gosh, I can never get there. Well, she didn't get there. She didn't just wake up in 2,100. She started with 17 members, right? And so
That's right.
we can get in our way thinking that we got to have all these things in place. And it's just not true. We have example after example whereby you don't need an audience of tens of thousands or thousands, just a couple hundred. And in fact, you don't even need that. Like I think of Faye Cornhill over in the UK. She had an audience of 77 people, 77. That's not even 100. And in her founding member launch, she ended up welcoming 10 members at 500 pounds. That equates to 5,000 pounds for her founding member launch. That created a ton of momentum. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it started with a teeny tiny audience. And this is the whole point in this. Or like, people getting tripped up about the technology. This comes back to, you can make it as complex or as simple as you want. I think of Cheryl Hatch. She was not comfortable with tech. And so she asked herself a powerful question. And I encourage everybody to write this one down. She said, how can I keep this super simple? How can I keep this super simple? So for her, she was comfortable with Facebook groups and she was comfortable with email. So she didn't let the, what platform do I pick and all the tech, because that was something that freaked her out. That was something that was a point of friction that was holding her back. So she launched and she had the community in a Facebook group and she delivered her membership content via email each week. And she did this for 2 years. For 2 years. Wow. Before she ever launched a members area, and she had welcomed more than 600 paying members during that time. So I'm sharing this with you because you can keep it simple if you decide to keep it simple. And once we err on the side of simplicity, what happens is like we start to realize we don't have to wait. We can get going now. And this is why during the free workshop that you've been referencing, last year we did it live for the first time ever. And it was just electric. Like there was so much energy and so much momentum that was created during the free workshop. And more people launched their membership during the free workshop than ever before. It was amazing. So cool. And I think it was just because people got out of their own way and they put what we were sharing into practice, and voila, it worked. And I'm happy to share like stories of what happened. But my point of the matter is just keep it simple. Keep it simple. And there are all kinds of ways for us to get going by following that mantra.
This is what I love about your workshops, because they're not like, let me just teach you all the high concepts. No, like you actually get in and implement, and we'll put the link in the show notes for them to jump into this workshop. We have had an idea percolating for a while that I haven't been allowed to do because of other things we're working on. But one of the things that I thought would be fun this time around during your workshop is we're going to actually go ahead and launch this thing, just following along in the workshop. So I thought it'd be fun. So I really want to call my tribe forward
to see what happens.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. So I'm going to call my tribe in to like do it with us, like jump in and learn this, because it's super, super powerful. What is the workshop? Talk a little bit about what you're doing. If maybe somebody hasn't heard about it at all, which, come on in. It's amazing over here. But tell us a little bit about it.
Well, every year, one time a year, we host a free workshop where we just open things up and we share like, what kind of a membership would make sense for you and your market, and what type of membership would make sense. And we'll unpack that. If you got questions about like, well, what do I actually provide inside of a membership? We'll talk about that. If you got questions about like, well, how do I attract members? Don't worry, we're going to cover that and a whole lot more. Bottom line is like, this is a free workshop that we host one time a year, and we go deep. And the whole goal is to help you generate a ton of momentum in a short period of time. And that's exactly what happened last year. Like I think of Steph McFadden. So her world was turned upside down last year. She has a microblading studio, which by my big eyebrows, you would know. I had no idea what a microblading studio was until I met Steph. But I've learned, it's a place where we can go and get our eyebrows trimmed up and groomed and stuff. But anyway, her business got completely shut down because of COVID. And she was like in a bit of a panic because she still had rent. She still had employees to pay. And not only that, but she actually had to refund more than $15,000 of pre-booked business. So she was just kind of like, what do I do? Like, I got to do something. So during the free workshop, on the first night of the workshop, we have a secret bonus session, which, by the way, I highly recommend everybody hang around for. And during that, we talked about how to do a founding member launch. And she didn't have an audience of tens of thousands. She didn't have an audience of thousands. She just had roughly 200 local customers that she was working with on a regular basis. So she did her founding member launch to them. And she didn't have a fully fleshed out idea of what her membership would be like, but she followed the founding member launch strategy that we teach, which allows you to go out to an audience with just an idea. But with that idea, she ended up welcoming 110 founding members, generating over $10,000 a month in recurring revenue right there during the free workshop. So She was one of many. I think of Trupti, who is an artist over in India. And Trupti, same thing. During the free workshop, she's like, by golly, I'm going to put this into practice. So she did. She had a following on Instagram of people who, liked her art. And so she went out to them. She ended up welcoming, I think it was just over 50 plus members in her founding member launch, again, during the free workshop. And there are countless stories of people from last year who launched during the free workshop. This is why you've got to come and attend live, because the energy and the momentum is extraordinary, and it carries you forward into like putting what you're learning into practice. And before you know it, you'll have, not only members, but recurring revenue happening, and you're off to the races. That is the most important thing. So during this workshop, it's about helping you get clear on how to begin moving forward in generating recurring revenue in your business with a membership. It's also about helping you generate momentum so that you are coming out of the workshop, not only with momentum, but having taken action on it and experiencing the results of that forward progress. That's what this is all about. And this is why I get so excited, because we host this one time a year, and this is it, baby.
And we're here. I can't wait. So, and there's two things I hear all the time that stop people. And this is what I love about the Tribe Workshop is you address them both. Number one is, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, what's my perfect niche, the perfect, because it's perfect. There's some perfect landing spot that we all think we're going to land on, which is all an illusion. But, Stu dives in and really helps you get there. And then the content question. Well, what I have to create all this stuff before I have it all together. I'd love for you to talk about that one, because that one stops more people than it's surprising how many people that stops. So talk a little bit about the content piece of memberships and how light it can be and how of deep service it can be, really.
Well, the number one reason that people cancel from a membership is overwhelm. It's not that the content isn't any good. It's not that they don't see value in it. It's just that they're overwhelmed by it. And it doesn't matter what type of membership it is, whether it's a product-based membership, service-based, knowledge-based, or community. If people aren't consuming and using what it is that you're sharing and experiencing some type of progress, they're going to leave. Like, think of the Dollar Shave Club with, the razors that get sent out of. If I've got a pile of razors that I'm not using and they keep sending me more and more razors, at some point I'm just going to be like, why? Why am I paying for this? I'm going to cancel, right? And it's the same with a knowledge-based membership. If you are just keep piling on content after content after content, like at some point, if people don't have the ability to be able to consume it and implement it, they're going to start getting overwhelmed. And this is why they leave. And I've been in this business for more than 12 plus years, literally helping tens of thousands of entrepreneurs in all kinds of different markets. And it's the same across the board. Overwhelm is the number one reason that people cancel. So what does that mean? Well, it means for us that the less content you provide, the better experience you create. The less content you provide, the better experience you create. And I know that sounds completely counterintuitive. And I know for those of us who like creating content, it can feel all kinds of weird. Like, wait a minute, Stu, come on now. What are you talking about? But let me give you an example. Jamie Bright, her old business model was she was a photographer, very skilled photographer, and a lot of other photographers were asking her how she was growing her business. So she created a membership initially teaching photographers all the things about growing their business online. She was talking about, SEO and blogging, and she was talking about Facebook ads and social media, like all the things. It was big. It was heavy, not only for her audience, but also for herself. And she just felt like she was on this content treadmill nonstop. So then it was becoming more of a job. And that's not what she wanted in her membership. So she reimagined what it could look like. Now I want to contrast that experience to what she ultimately did, which I thought was brilliant. Instead of teaching photographers all the things, she taught them one new strategy a month for attracting one new recurring client per month. One strategy to attract one recurring client. Now, all of a sudden, she's gone from like this big, heavy content treadmill that was not only heavy for her, but it was heavy for her audience to learn it and apply it, to down to this very simple structure of one strategy a month to attract one new recurring client per month. And what happened? Well, it was super light and easy for her to create the content for the membership. And it was super light and easy for her audience to not only learn what to do, but then to put what they're learning into practice. And as a result, they were making more progress than ever before, getting more results than ever before, and her membership took off like a rocket. And so less created a better experience for her members and for her. And so I share this because content is one of those things you 100% got to have the right strategy in place, not only for your audience, but for yourself. And I can tell you that there are ways to structure the content in a membership whereby you're not stuck on a content treadmill. Like one of my business partnerships back in the day was with Michael Hyatt. He's a New York Times bestselling author. And when we partnered, he was on the road speaking at 30 to 40 speaking engagements a year. And that meant like a day in the front for travel, day on the back for travel. He was gone over 100 days a year. Meanwhile, at the time, he was also publishing every single day on his blog. And he also had a weekly podcast. So the dude just didn't have time to like create any more content. So we thought up of a content strategy whereby we would create more than a year's worth of content in just 6 days. A year of content in 6 days. And the way we would do that is we would have 3 2-day video shoots. And during those 2-day video shoots, it was just bam, 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 bam. We would record a whole bunch of content. And then we would schedule it accordingly. And we got so far ahead that when I exited that partnership, we had content scheduled for another 8-9 months. So if they did nothing, they'd still have new content coming out for almost a year afterwards. So I share that with you because that boils down to having a content strategy. And there's 100% strategy for creating a membership experience that creates high value, helps your people make massive progress, but is super low stress for you. That's exactly what Jamie did, and it's exactly what you can do as well inside of your memberships. It all just boils down to having a content strategy.
Man, so this workshop is a must. It's a must do on your list. So like just get your name on the list and be there and hang out with us because I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there all the days. Stu, you and I've shared over a cup of coffee some of the not just business transformations, not just, residual income, but lives that have changed because they took a gamble on themselves. They said yes to themselves and they got to start to see their dreams come to life. I'd love for you to share 1 or 2 stories that maybe pops into your mind. I know we talked over a few of them. They're just so inspiring. And I want my listeners to hear it because it can show you how quickly those dreams can become reality.
Well, I'm very deeply connected to what we call the ripple effect, which is like, obviously I'm deeply connected to the entrepreneur, you're my people, this is who I show up to serve every single day because I know that if I can help you create that stability in your business, it's going to allow you to reach a heck of a lot more people with the way in which you serve the world. I think of like Dana Abraham, she's helping literally thousands and thousands of parents who are struggling with their young kids. And I just think of like the ripple effect of her work, and because she's able to get what she's doing now in front of thousands and thousands of people, those are not just thousands of, kids, but I think of like those kids growing up now, knowing that they are, better understood and have a bond with their parents and what that means and how that's going to translate like for years and decades to come. I think of like the work of Dr. Una, who's helping doctors expand their practice and helping them like build a better, like, my goodness, think of the ripple effect of doctors, being in a better position themselves so that they're not feeling the stress and they can serve so many more people. I think of like, Leslie Vernick, who has a membership specifically for Christian women who are in a broken marriage right now. And they're thinking of like, do I exit? Do I stay? Like, how do I navigate that? Like, she's helping thousands and thousands of women, because of her membership. And then I think about like all of the, people in our community who have memberships teaching different skills. And like, whether it's teaching people how to paint, whether it's teaching people how to draw, whether it's teaching people how to play the guitar. And I think about like the ripple effect of that. And we may think, oh yeah, that's cute and stuff. But what kind of a real impact is that? Listen to me, like Levi, who runs a guitar membership with his business partner, Tony. They have thousands, like they now have more than 13,000 members in their membership. And one of the cool things about their membership is they're not targeting everybody who wants to learn how to play guitar. They're actually targeting people like retired men specifically. And prior to COVID, they would host these jam sessions where, if you can imagine, like hundreds and hundreds of guys are getting together who are, used to play the guitar maybe back in the day, or they've always wanted to play the guitar. And now they're just picking this skill up. And it's created this unbelievable community where people are getting together, they're jamming, and they're having just this amazing time. And I just think about like the well-being that creates for all these people. I think about Ginger Dean, who, she's a psychotherapist, and she specifically helps women who are, just gotten out of a very toxic relationship where it's like, very damaging, whether it be mental, physical abuse, et cetera.
Yeah.
And, before she had a full client load. She was working 14 to 16 hour days. And then, COVID hit and her client load increased because there was more demand for it. And she just couldn't take it anymore. Like, she was burning the candle at both ends. She launches her membership, and this past year has welcomed more than 1,000 plus members. So now I think of like, she's impacting thousands and thousands of people. Whereas before, she could only meet with, 14 to 16 people a day. Now she's helping thousands of people, because she's got the leverage in a membership. And I mean, I could go on and on and on about all the different types of people in all the different markets, whether it's photography, calligraphy, fitness, finance, music, art, health, dog training, you name it. Yeah. They all serve hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands of people. I think of Tiffany Aliche, who 5 years ago, her business partner, Jabril, attended one of the very first workshops that I ever hosted, where I was teaching what we're going to share in the live workshop coming up. And he took that and he reached out to Tiffany, who was a friend, who at the time had an audience of about 10,000 people following her on Facebook. And she was teaching specifically women, specifically Black women, how to manage their finances. And through that partnership, they started a membership. They, over the years, haven't gone in any other direction other than focusing in on the membership. So they didn't add coaching programs, didn't add consulting, didn't add masterminds, didn't add nothing. They just focused on this one membership. Well, over the years, Jabril, he would send me like updates as they were continuing to grow it. And, when they did their founding member launch and they welcomed a few hundred members, and then it grew to thousands of members, and then it grew to tens of thousands of members. And I was catching up with him in January. They had crossed more than 40,000 paying members, 40,000 paying members. Now, I took a moment and I said to him and Tiffany, I said, man, I'm so stinking proud of like what they have done, because it's not like only the impact that it's had on them. It's not only the impact that it's had on their team and what that's made possible. It's the impact on those 40,000 women. And not only that, But those 40,000 women now having a much better financial understanding of how to manage their money is going to have a trickle down effect in their families and their kids' families, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. That's what the ripple effect is all about, gang. The work that we do, the work that you do, it matters. And this is why I'm passionate about this, because it allows us to go deep. It allows us to serve people at the highest level. It allows us to help them make massive progress with what it is that we're teaching. And it allows us to have an impact that we could not have if we did not have the leverage of a membership. And the icing on the cake, by the way, is that it just also happens to be the most stable, predictable, best business model that we could have in our business, which is why the Amazons, the Apples, the Netflix, the Spotify, the Disney Plus, they're all moving to subscription. Why? Because of the stability and predictability. So it's a huge win across the board. And this is why I'm passionate about it and why I highly recommend, no matter what type of business you have, whether it's product-based, service-based, knowledge-based, or community-based, you 100% can have a membership. We'll show you how. So make sure you come and join us for the free workshop.
Yes, definitely do that. And as we're wrapping up, I just think about, the person that's sitting there and has the dream of the business, like that end result dream, right? They want to serve. I don't think they'd be attracted to either one of us if they didn't want to serve on a deep level, on a purpose legacy level. But they also want to have that freedom in their life. They want to be there for their kids' events, like you and I are always at with ours. They want to be able to impact and influence and be able to have that freedom. And to me, there is no better path to that triad there than memberships. So yes, join us at the workshop. It's going to be amazing. Any last thoughts we could leave our listeners with that we can send them off and get them ready for April 22nd?
Well, if the last year's taught us anything, it's that we never know what's going to happen, and last year, as we went into the workshop, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of uncertainty. None of us had ever navigated anything like the COVID and closures and all that kind of stuff before. And we didn't know how long it would last. We didn't know what the ripple effect of that would be. And the good news though from that was that it created urgency in people to take action, because not necessarily because they wanted to, but because they had to, right? And that was a blessing in disguise, because what happened was it got people out of their own way, and they weren't getting tripped up necessarily worrying about what he's going to think or what she's going to think, or am I good enough? No. It was I need to do this because I've got to, if I don't, I don't know what's going to happen with so they all of those fears just kind of got eliminated because there was urgency to get going and to do something. And this was where, for me, the magic began to happen, because people got out of their own way. They started to do things that, normally they'd probably overthink and overanalyze. And they started to make progress like they've never made before. And for me, just last week, there was a post in our community that it just lit me up. It was from Jennifer Chamberlain, who 3 years ago, she started a membership site, and she was teaching women over 50 how to paint. And, she did her founding member launch, and she welcomed 17 members, 17. And, to Jennifer's credit, she stayed with it. She rolled the momentum from that founding member launch into her next launch, and then into the next launch after that. And she went from 17 founding members, and eventually she crossed the 100 member mark. And then eventually she crossed the 1,000 member mark. And fast forward, here we are 3 years later. And she just now has crossed the 2,100 member mark. And she said in this post that her membership is now on track this year to be $1 million a year membership. This was 3 years ago. She started with 17 founding members. And I'm bringing this up because never underestimate what is possible when you get in motion, because momentum begins to take over. It begins to open up doors that you can't even see right now. But you've got to do the one and only thing that needs to happen in order for all of that goodness to happen, which is you got to get in motion. You got to start taking the next right step. And that right now, I'm telling everybody is come and join us for the free workshop, because we're going to walk you through this and you're going to come out clear. You're going to have that momentum on your side. And by golly, you're going to be on your road to generating that recurring revenue.
Love it. I love it. Thank you, Stu, so much for jumping on today, for loving up my tribe. I'm excited for them to jump in, to be at the workshop and to start to see the magic happen. So Stu, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks for sharing and thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Make sure you sign up and we'll see you in the tribe workshop. Get signed up now. Don't wait. Bye.
Woo-hoo! See you, gang.